The only time in the English language you say the word stave. Playoff series. The T-Wolves stave. And the Panthers never underestimate the heart of a Reinhardt. Let's go around the horn.
Oh, yeah. See what you did there.
Took us a second.
I think stave should be pronounced staving.
Stavamente, staving, staving.
Good game alert. Possible series alert. T-Wolves staving off elimination evening. Ant nearly tripping. Cat waking up with threes in the fourth quarter and closed the game. That Doncic three that he missed the free throw after made it the ball game. T-Wolves 105, Mavericks 100. Will Dallas live to regret it? Will Kalishaw live with regret in this great life of his? Absolutely not. Tim, you were there. The number one thing last night showed you about the Mavs and about the T-Wolves.
Tony, we're taking a quick break from planning the parade routes for the Stars and the Mavericks here to look back at this game last night.
Yeah.
And let me say this. Let me say this. There's only two reasons ever to worry about losing when you're up 3-0. One is if it's a home game, because then games you got to go on the road for Game 5. Game 6 is your only home game left, and that happens to be the case. And the other one would be if something fundamentally different showed up in that game. And in this case, Derek Lively is out. We don't know how long. And Anthony Edwards and Mike Conley kind of had layup drills going for a while. It was a lot easier getting to the basket. The T-Wolves outscored Dallas in the paint, 46-36. So if that is going to be something that's going to continue in Game 5, then yes, Dallas, I wouldn't worry about losing the series. They're up 3-1. They got to win one more game in 3 tries, and they've been much better at closing out. But all of these games have been close. The T-Wolves have had the lead in the last 4 minutes of every game. Anybody could have won any game. And there did seem to be a little life after the game around Anthony Edwards, who's promising Micah Parsons a pair of his shoes Saturday night when he's back here for Game 6.
Wow.
So there's certainly confidence.
It seems like it. I was waiting for the big finish here, Kalishaw, that you're going to tell us, but the Mavericks are in complete control.
They're still.
I'm not exactly hearing that. Not exactly. Mina Kimes. You had your chance.
Yeah, Anthony Edwards, confident? What? Where's this coming from? I am with Tim insofar as I don't think this was an example of Minnesota figuring something out that unlocked the series for them. Yes, I think having Edwards defend Luka as much as he did was smart. The way Rudy approached defending the pick and roll was a little bit different, and the absence of Lively certainly loomed large. But to me, this win boiled down to a pretty simple dynamic, which is the T-Wolves' 2 biggest stars played like stars, and they haven't thus far in the series. This is about 2 teams that are very evenly matched, both play great defense, so it comes down to the difference between the 2 duos. And last night, Minnesota's duo, who had shot 33% in the prior 3 games combined, shot 53%. And that was the difference when Kyrie and Luka didn't have their best night. Do I think that's likely to repeat on the part of Dallas? No, I don't. They're just too good at shot making. But for one night, that was indeed the difference.
Bill Barnwell, number one takeaway from Minnesota's win last night.
I don't believe that Minnesota played any better in this game than they had in the prior games. We still saw the same sloppy, inexplicable fouling
with the threes
Karl
at the end
Anthony
there?
Towns and Anthony Edwards. Their scoring was better. Karl Anthony Towns woke up and played with confidence for the first time in this series. But Dallas was ice cold, freezing early in this game. This should have been a blowout, a game that the Timberwolves won comfortably. They were winning by significant margin in the second half. They were holding on for dear life at the end of this game. So no, I don't buy that this is a much better performance from the Timberwolves.
Okay, Kevin Blackstone, number one takeaway.
It was a smarter performance from the Timberwolves than they've had before. And I'll say smarter really from a coaching standpoint because of the double teaming that they put on Doncic and on Irving at key times, which forced them to give up the ball and forced the rest of the team to beat them, which they couldn't do. And also by trusting Edwards not to get into foul trouble by covering Doncic. Doncic was 5 for 15 when Edwards was on him. So I give the credit a little bit to Finch trying to coach his team, trying to trust his team to stay out of foul trouble. What does this mean going forward? It bodes well for Minnesota going forward. Number one, they're going home. During the regular season, they had beaten Dallas their 2 trips up to Minnesota. So they've got to have a little bit of momentum going in. Does this change the series? Is somebody going to come back from down 0-3? It's going to happen someday. I don't think it's going to happen in this series, but all of a sudden it's more compelling.
All right, Tim Kalishaw, speaking of compelling, give us more compelling. Get into positive figures here.
Well, here's one more compelling that doesn't really bode well for the Mavericks. The T-Wolves had everybody in foul trouble last night. Towns got his 5th foul in the 3rd quarter and had to sit for a long stretch. And Edwards was in foul trouble, partly because he was guarding Luka, and Gobert is always in foul trouble, and they survived.
Are you
all of
sure
that.
you're making arguments to tell us the Mavericks are in all
I'm
right
saying
position?
things are fine here in Dallas. The parade's going to start over there, and it's going to come down over here.
It really
it's
is.
Go right
It's
there.
just an incredible
It's all gonna be
Kalishovian move here to go the other way. Sit still for a second. We're going to talk about your stars in a moment. Let's talk about the game on ice first from last night. Good game alert, definite series alert. Panthers winning in overtime. To do it against the Rangers, who have been overtime mavens, and to do it 1 minute into overtime on a power play that probably should have been a penalty shot, but on a power play where Sam Reinhart evens the series. Bill, who should feel better at 2-2, Florida or New York?
No question, it's the Florida Panthers. They've been dominating the Rangers over the past couple games. 27 high-danger chances to just 10 for the Rangers over the last 2 games. If you're going to win games with the Rangers, you have to be perfect, and they were not perfect yesterday. Igor Shesterkin played well for most of the game, but gave up kind of a soft early goal on the power play. Mika Zibanejad, the reliable center, takes a really unfortunate pass. That's a breakaway. Rangers have to take a penalty in overtime. You leave Sam Reinhart, one of the highest scoring players in hockey this year, wide open in the slot on the power play. You cannot survive winning games that way. Panthers are favored moving forward.
Kevin Blackson, who's got the edge at 2-2?
Well, I still think it's the Panthers, like I thought going into this series, really because of their road record. They were 5-1 in the postseason on the road.
Okay.
They've been a split this one here.
Rangers haven't been much worse.
Good.
Okay.
No, they haven't been. They have not been much worse. But I kind of like the Panthers. And the other thing is that the stars for the Rangers really haven't shown up. I mean, those guys have been pretty much controlled, and so I think the Panthers have a little bit of an edge, thinking about what they've been able to do and how they've been able to close out games. And I think that they'll be able to close out this series.
Tim Kalishaw, who's got the edge?
I'm afraid my colleagues have this one figured out. The Rangers stars have been shut down quite a bit. And they may have 2 home games left, potentially. But the only game that didn't go to overtime was game 1 in Madison Square Garden. That was 3-0 Florida. The Panthers don't have any problem playing on the road. They've come back from losing the Cup final last year to all year they've played to get to this point. I know the Rangers are really good, had the best record. I think Florida's just got a little greater commitment, and they're a little better team.
Greater commitment. Oh, he's questioning the commitment.
A little more commitment.
All right. I like
committed.
the way you're committed to that V-neck. Mina Kimes, how about you?
I'm sorry, Panthers fans. I'm going to make this a clean sweep and agree with my panelists that you have the edge, which of course is dangerous. For a number of reasons, I think the score was closer than the underlying metrics. Bill alluded to Mika Zibanejad's bad pass, leading, of course, to the game-winning goal. And I think the reason that it was so brutal is it was coupled with bad play on the part of both him and Kreider. Their first line just hasn't been what they were during the regular season. Don't have a point in the last 4 games. And they're only in this because of excellent goalkeeping, but Florida has outshot them. They've had more high danger scoring opportunities. They just look like the better team.
That's right. Clean sweep there from our national panel. Go get them, Rangers fans.
Good luck.
We'll move on to tonight now. Game 4, Stars, Oilers. The game is in Edmonton. You know how this postseason's gone with road teams winning, so who has the advantage could be a question. But look over in Plasma 2 once again in Dallas. Kalishaw, oh to be Kalishaw. 2 teams on the precipice of finality. No nerves in that steely visage. Looks like he's about to tell us the Stars figured out the Oilers. Go ahead, Tim.
Well, Tony, the Stars have figured out the Oilers. And so what we're looking at here is the problem for Edmonton is they went home, took a 2-0 lead after the first period of Game 3. Felt like finally they had their game together, and in a 3.5-minute span in the second period, it became 3-2 Dallas, and the rest was all Dallas. Dallas was the best road team in hockey this season. They're 6-1 in the playoffs on the road. The goaltending disparity is starting to show up a little bit. Yeah. The Stars have Ottinger, a fine young goalie. Skinner is a guy who got benched for a while in the Vancouver series. He's okay, and he played really well in the first game in Dallas, but there is a difference there. And Edmonton's power play has 0 goals after 3 games and only 5 opportunities. So they can't even figure out how to get on the power play, much less to score.
There it is.
So
Tim Kalisha says Dallas has figured Edmonton out. He's got the Stars tonight. How about you, Kevin Blackistone?
Yeah, I've got the Stars more because the Oilers seem to have regressed to whatever their mean is, particularly with Skinner. I mean, he's given up 3 really soft goals in the last 4 that he's given up. I thought he had rebounded coming into this series. And then they haven't even scored in the third period in this entire series. So if they fall behind, it's really all over. And they've got one of their stars playing.
Give the Oilers any shot tonight. I'm hearing Kalisha say it's figured out. Blackistone saying it's figured out.
I'm going to take the Oilers because there's more pressure on them. This is a must-win for them. They're not going to win 3 straight to finish this series. They're at home. This is you got to beat the same old Oilers charges. This is their best shot of doing so. I think they win.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Stars. Unless maybe Micah Parsons shows up, and then maybe I'll tilt my vote towards the Oilers if not to channel my inner Stephen A.
We have been taking a break coming up. Baseball, fantasy baseball owners. If you're interested, a hot young prospect to pick up who had a record-setting night last night. Josh Gibson. Buy or sell next.
Welcome back to Around the Horn, coming to you from the Seaport. Brought to you by Grey Goose.
What a record-setting, historic night for Josh Gibson. With MLB taking on Negro League stats, Gibson now holds the single-season batting average record, along with the career slugging and career OPS records, displacing Babe Ruth. And the biggie, career batting average, displacing Ty Cobb. Who's going to be the reporter to go to Cobb for comment? Kevin Blackistone, you have long talked about Major League Baseball's reticence to accept the Negro Leagues and appreciate the Negro Leagues. How do you feel about this today?
Well, it's another step in its reconciliation with its long history of discrimination in baseball, which became somehow known as America's pastime. This is a lot of hard work went into this. Researchers, Josh Gibson's family, Bob Kendrick at the Negro Leagues Museum in Kansas City. And I'm glad to see it all come to fruition with this inclusion of Negro League stats. And I would also just point out that Negro Leagues were never less than major. They weren't minor leagues. And the major leagues maybe were not as major as we've mythologized them to be. And so those players who had to play separately all those years ago are really a lot more closer together than we realize.
And as far as stat keeping go, as a baseball fan, you'll see 472 and now think of you'll see 372 and now think Gibson ahead of Cobb?
Absolutely. Absolutely, you'll think of that. If we've come to think of other players with bigger numbers that we put asterisks next to for whatever reasons, we can do the very same with Josh Gibson and those numbers with the same sort of thought behind
Bill Barnwell.
Absolutely.
It's a half measure from a league that wants full credit for sort of trying to fix their past. That is not going to happen. These players missed out on opportunities and fame for decades past their passing because the league was not willing to make this change earlier. And they need to make a change not just for those players from the past, but for players from the future. The league needs to invest more in black communities to get opportunities for players to play Major League Baseball. That's the change they can make that will be more long-lasting and more meaningful than changing the record book.
Mina Kimes.
I am still buying that this is long overdue recognition for a number of players, led, of course, by Josh Gibson, selling the idea that this is unfair. There's no way of knowing what his stats would have been if he had been permitted to compete against white players. There's no way of knowing what their stats would have been if they had been pitching to Josh Gibson. There's no way of knowing what stats would have been like in the steroid era. The history of baseball is complicated. All the sport can do, the league can do, is try to account for more of it, and this is a step in that
Tim,
direction.
one of the things the league said is the COVID year where there were 60 games, but they still gave full credit to a 364 average record. Well, Gibson played 600 career games in the Negro Leagues to tie Cobb's 3,000 in the majors, and now he's supplanted him all-time batting average. How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, he still played a lot of games, and even in the year he set the new batting record, I guess we'll call it, batting average record. They had 102 games that year. It's not like it was a really short season. Let me know when a major leaguer is hitting 466 after 102 games this year. And the same way as others have said, Babe Ruth never hit against Satchel Paige, not in a major league game anyway. So these things can go both ways. I think it's fine, and it's
history,
long overdue.
But it's not even ancient history, because you may have seen Willie Mays gained hits this week because of this maneuver of Major League Baseball, and of course we saw what he did in the majors. We'll move on. Buy or sell to Bronny James keeping his name in the draft. Shams Charania reporting over 10 teams have offered him workouts. He'll only go to a couple, Lakers and Suns, who Charania said will be scheduled. Rich Paul, speaking for James family, says he doesn't want Bronny on a two-way deal. Tim, what does it all mean?
Just the last part bothers me a little bit, and I don't blame Bronny for any of this. Any of the criticism directed at him is really unfair. But a lot of players who weren't great in college, and he didn't do a lot in his year at USC, really benefit from some time in the G League. Look at Jaden Hardy with the Mavericks. So it's not a shameful thing to have to play in the G League a little bit to get your game up. So I wish Rich Paul would rethink that.
Blackstone.
And it is professional basketball at an NBA level. Naz Reid was undrafted and played in the G League to get his game together. Now look at what he's doing. So no shame to this game. This is what college players are offered to do. You can take advantage of it. He's done that, and obviously it keeps alive his father's dream of maybe one day playing with his son on an NBA.
The strategy, though, to only take, at this moment, 2 pre-draft workouts, Bill Barnwell, or say no G League, we don't want a two-way contract?
No, it doesn't make any sense. It's clear that Rich Paul is optimizing Bronny James's career to play with LeBron James as opposed to developing Bronny himself, and that's fine. Bronny James might not be an NBA caliber player when everything is said and done, but we're never going to know unless he gets an opportunity to get reps. That's not going to come in the NBA where he's overmatched against NBA caliber players, whether it's the G League, whether it's playing internationally. His only chance of playing at a high level is getting those reps that he did not get even in his year at USC. He was a backup at USC.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with what everyone's saying about the opportunity for Bronny to improve, which is something Rich Paul talked about. He can get better as a shooter. He showed that at the Combine, and I think that's significant. But those opportunities need to come with reps, and if he doesn't get them, we may never know.
Many times, Bill Barnwell, thank you for your time today. Just like they did in the hallways of the Dallas Morning News for so many years. Oh, this is all Dallas today in the show, huh?
Same office.
Kalishaw.
That Jeremy Mayfield car. Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
6-0. 1 for 27 is what Phoenix was from 3. Have you ever seen 1 for 27? Tim, was it the Sun holding the Mercury to 1 to 27, or was it Phoenix holding themselves to 1 to 27?
As formidable as the Sun is, and I mean that in every way, and you can be really good defensively, nobody holds somebody to 1 for 27. You got to shoot your way to 1 for 27. That's on the Mercury.
Maybe.
It is time for basketball players to re-embrace the 2. It's okay. A couple of academics up at Syracuse a few years ago just did a study that said that there is a premium on the 2 now, and that it's really not an advantage always shooting the 3. Come on, people.
Premium is an interesting choice of words. I appreciate that, but I'm giving Kalishaw the 2 points. You know what they said? The Mercury, they go up and they go down. It's kind of mercurial. PWHL Championship tonight, first one ever. I'm going back to this topic because it's so good. Sunday, Minnesota thought they won it all, celebrated, had the goal disallowed 2 minutes later on review, and then Boston won to stave off elimination and get us to tonight, where a champion will definitely be crowned. Decisive Game 5, Kevin. So the question is, who has the psychological advantage? The team that thought they won, that lost, and is now motivated to win again, or the team that thought they had lost and won is now motivated by their new life?
Whichever one of those you just said is Boston, that's the one with the advantage because they've got 2 players from Bill Barnwell's Northeastern University that won championships together at Northeastern University. They're not losing on home ice. Are you kidding me?
Minnesota doesn't? Okay. And how about you, Tim?
We live at a time where home ice doesn't mean a lot, but it still means something in deciding games. And the only thing better than home ice in a deciding game is playing with house money. And they're playing with house money after Boston is after the way they won the other night.
Okay. I'm rooting for Minnesota, though, just to get back to that championship celebration. Showdown 3, global news. Greenland applying to join CONCACAF for soccer. Let's go to the map. Is Greenland, which is part of Denmark, by the way, North American? Tim Cowlishaw.
I'm going with it. First of all, it gives you 42 teams, a nice round number. We've given up on geography. USC and Rutgers are in the same conference.
Kevin Blackstone, is Greenland part of North America?
I'm sure if you go back several millennia, the tectonic plates or whatever were together, and it was probably part of North America. But before that, they got to get a better nickname. The Polar Teddy Bears? Come on, man.
Oh, I love that. Tim Cowlishaw, take the FaceTime.
Thank you, Anthony. I want to talk about one of the really good guys in the NBA, and that would be Minnesota coach Chris Finch. I had a chance to visit with him last night. After all the press conferences are done after Game 4, I'm heading back to the press room. Here's a guy on crutches by himself, nobody around him, making the long trek to the bus. I said, why don't they give you a golf cart? He's like, I don't need one, I'm fine. He just wanted to talk about the Beckham soccer documentary. Great guy.